Hello, David Lebowski here. Hope everyone's doing well. Hello, Mrs. Fehnel's class at Pennridge High School. I just wanted to reach out to you guys and record this video. So in the beginning, there's 3 ways to start a yoga practice. You could start by standing, you could start by being seated like I was in the beginning, or another favorite one is lying down. So I'll invite you to just take a moment. You can lie down if that's comfortable for you. All you're doing in this posture is we're just getting our breath, and we're connecting our breath to our body. And so you can, in this case, I'm taking 10 breaths. So you're going to start to see, obviously my belly is rising and falling, chest is rising and falling. We're taking this time in the beginning to get our breath and our body connected and begin to settle in and feel what sensations come up. Your eyes can be closed or open. And in yoga, certainly we're not going to do anything that's going to hurt you or injure you in any way. So if nothing feels good, or if a certain pose does not feel good, then please stop and try to do some modifications, or just skip it and go to something else. But just take your time, and you'll notice how slowly that I move during the practice. So this is one of the best ways to start, is just getting your breath and your body in connection and sync. So arms overhead. This is our second posture here. This is sometimes called the long stretch. And so all we're doing, guys, is we're going to just stretch out our hands over our head, and my toes are pointing up. So your heels are pulling away from your fingers, and your fingers are trying to pull away from your toes. If your shoulders don't go back to the floor all the way, you can get a blanket rolled up, or you can get a pillow, or you can also frame your arms in a goalpost position. And again, we're just coming back to the breath. So yoga, it's very important, guys, and we talked about this before, is it's just the breath and movement. Yoga is moving meditation. So next one, this is called a pelvic rocking. And this pelvic rocking, you'll know, is very subtle. So your feet are flat on the floor. And now we're taking some time to breathe here. And this is a slow motion. So you'll notice my hand is underneath the small of my back, and my neck has its natural curve, and your back has a natural curve. So in this case, you're going to inhale, your belly fills, and then you're going to exhale, and you're basically bringing you're flattening your back against the ground. So that's all you're doing here, is just flattening your back on the exhale, and on the inhale, you begin that natural curve in your back. And this is a nice, gentle way to get your back moving, especially in the morning. So that was called the pelvic rocking. Straighten out a little bit. And now we're just going to do a simple one here. We've all done this before. Knees to chest. Again, just to counteract the last pose. So we're going to do this very slowly. Pull them in as far as you can. You can move your hands away and put them in front of your knees and start to move side to side. Go clockwise and counterclockwise. And that's a good way to control your knees. And then finally, you can take your knees even closer by just interlocking your fingers and just squeezing a little bit. But be careful, please, and be gentle. Don't pull too hard at first. So just take your time. And again, we're coming back to the breath, making sure you're breathing, you're checking in with your breath. And I'll talk about breath in the next video. The breath during yoga is very important. And it's important that you are keeping a nice natural rhythm. So now we're going to come to what's called tabletop. You'll see that my wrists are under my shoulders and my knees are under my hips. And this is a favorite for Mrs. Fehnel's class, the cat and cow pose. So you inhale, look up. Exhale, round your back like a cat. Inhale, like a cow, look up. Exhale, round your back. Again, we're pushing our hands into the mat. Nothing too fast. Just take your time. Inhale, and you're using that breath with movement. So this is a good example of using the breath and then moving your body along with the breath. So we come to a neutral position here, and notice that any of the postures that I'm doing and then when I'm transitioning, that we're actually going to be taking our time, and we're not going to be rushing anything and moving into a certain pose in a fast way. So let's go ahead and cross your legs in front of you. Right shin or left shin can be in the front, and then we're going to fold forward and reach out as far as you can. Again, only as far as is comfortable. And once you're in a good position here, you're going to start to really check in with your body. Let your hips go. Let your head go a little bit if that's comfortable. You can drop your neck a little bit too. And just again, taking your time, inhale and exhaling. So we're going to inhale up, exhale, cross the legs again. So now you're going to put, in this case, my right shin is in the front. Inhale up, and then exhale, fold. Nice big breath. And notice I switched shins. One shin was in front of the other last time, so this feels better for me on this side, and you might find that too. So in yoga, just notice how your body feels in these postures, and then come back to your breath. And that's mindfulness if you watch my other videos or know anything about mindfulness. So you're just going to breathe here. Making movements that feel good to you. So we're going to come up to a seated, and then we'll slowly move into tabletop, and then we'll come back to the cat and cow. And exhale, round. Inhale, drop the hips, look up. Exhale, round, push into the mat. Inhale, look up. Exhale, round. Again, you can do 3 breaths, 5 breaths. You could go even longer if you'd like. So this is another favorite pose of Mrs. Fehnel's class. This is called the child's pose, and this is the go-to pose. If you ever go to a yoga studio, they'll tell you to always go to this pose if you're feeling tired or injured or something's wrong. You just come to this pose here, and no one's going to bother you. So this is, again, child's pose. You can stack your forearms. The whole idea is you want to release your low back and your hips and let them sink to the ground. I could have used a block in that case right there with my forehead on the ground. But again, if you have a pillow or a yoga block, you can certainly use that, and I should have in this case, but right now this feels good. So we're going to come up out of that child's pose, walk out a little bit in our mat. And you don't even need a mat. You can just do it. You just do this on your carpet and do it in your house on the floor, on a hard floor. So this next pose is called the down dog. And the down dog, you'll notice, is I'm pushing my hands into the mat. My feet are hip width apart, and I'm bending my knees. So you can pedal out your legs, see how it feels on each side. And again, your heels don't have to touch the ground. If they can, then that's great. If not, that's fine. So now we're going to come to a high plank, and then exhale down to a chaturanga. So we're now flat on the floor. And we're going to come up to the next pose. And Mrs. Fehnel's class remembers this. This is called the sphinx pose. And the whole idea behind the sphinx pose is to relax your low back. And so everything from your waist down should be nice and relaxed. And you're pushing up from your hands and pressing into the ground using your hands and using your forearms. And you notice that your shoulders should not be shrugged around your ears. Your shoulders should be nice and relaxed, and your shoulders should be dropping away from your ears, and you're looking up as far up the wall as you can or up to the ceiling. And again, you can go high, you can go higher. If you can go higher, that's great. If it doesn't hurt, that's even better. So just take your time, and you can play around with how high you want to be able to push up on your elbows. So next one's the alligator pose. You're just going to stack your forearms, rest your forehead, and there's the alligator. So again, everything from the waist down is nice and relaxed. This is your chance to breathe. There's the alligator there. And so Mrs. Fehnel's class always got a kick out of the alligator pose. But it's a great pose to come back to. And even if you don't like child's pose, you could certainly just come down to the alligator pose. So now we're going to come back to our child's pose. You'll notice this time that my knees are a little wider. It's tough to see, but basically my knees are on either side of my mat. And this is a good way, if you have your tight back, your hips are tight, this is a good way for you to really get a little bit lower to the ground and get a little bit of a deeper stretch in your low back and your hips. And again, you can come back to this pose, the child's pose, anytime during your yoga practice, whether it be home or in a studio. So you can stack your forehead on your forearms and just breathe there and connect your breath and start to let go and get deeper to the floor. So now we're going to come up and just again moving slowly, not too fast. We're coming down to back to the resting pose. And at this time, this resting pose can be any length you like, but typically it's 8 to 10 minutes at the end. And this is the resting pose, or what the lying down pose is, a way for you now to regenerate, to reset yourself, to see how your body feels in this position and after doing a yoga practice. And you're just taking time. This is the most important part of the yoga practice. And any yoga teacher will tell you that this part is the most important. So just take your time moving so you can spend more time in that posture. And we'll come to a seated posture then. And take a moment to breathe. Thank yourself for taking the time to practice. Namaste. See you guys. Miss you guys. See you in Mrs. Fehnel's class. Bye.